is Ash with the Wizard's Respite. I'm here with Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and this is the Wizard's Respite Sanctorum, where we talk about pretty much all things TTRPG. We deep dive into games that we really like, what we liked about them, what we would improve, and you know, a lot of other things. We often digress. We often go in a lot of different directions, and it's always fun and it's always TTRPG. Um, so yeah, and I'm here with Zachariah with Old Man Gaming.
Hello! Hello!
How's it
Yes!
going, Zach?
Super
Are you ready for
excited.
this game?
Yeah, back for vacation. This is a game I've been very excited about. I have confessions. I have not read it. I have wanted to read it. I just haven't gotten around to it, but I really have been super into journaling games since the last Tea Shop, and obviously the creation of my own journaling game. So this kind of stuff is really interesting me lately. So I'm very interested in this, but I think we're gonna let you lead me down the halls
Okay.
of this game,
Okay. So
which we
yeah,
haven't
should
said the
we?
title of yet.
Right. It's amongst the starlit wreckage. Lost among the starlit wreckage. Lost amongst. Uh,
Lost Among the Starlight Wreckage.
Thank you. I always screw that title up.
Yes. No, it's
I
fine.
can't tell you
It's
how
a
many
big
times I've
one.
had to rewrite that while I was writing a tweet about it or something because I really like this game a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, should we dive into it then?
Yeah, dive into it. Give me the breakdown. What is it?
Okay, so it is a journaling game, but it's also a two-player sort of co-op game. We did the last Tea Shop, which had that sort of aspect attached to it, but it's almost like this is a little bit flipped in that regard because the last Tea Shop was more focused on, I think, the journaling aspect of it. There was a lot of focus on writing the dialogue. At least that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
With this game, I actually feel like this game is a little bit more geared toward the co-op aspect of it, creating a story, a narrative story with another player, centered around the setting and theme and mechanics here. And the setting is a destroyed mech, like old school warrior robot that you sit in and fly around in.
Gundam.
Gundam. It is a Gundam mech. Um, and it's messed up. So you're in space in your mech, and you are adrift, sending out a mayday, and that is what the game is about. You communicating with somebody out there in the stars, trying to help them get to you and talk to you as you're trying to frantically make repairs on your mech before the reactor blows or stave off the reactor blowing so they can rescue you.
That is immediately nightmare inducing. I cannot think of I have had like I will never see the movie Gravity because that kind of stuff just scares. Like the idea of floating through space until you run out of oxygen, like a limitless void is like no, no thank you. No thank you. No thank. So I
Yeah.
get to feel as small as I am to the universe and then die? No thank you.
Yeah,
Still
this
this
might
is
frighten you.
this is a really cool idea for a game. So the second player is the person on the other end, the person trying to find you.
Yes, they're the rescuer.
That's very cool.
Um, yeah, and so the dialogue can go in a lot of different ways. They have a system for prompts. Like T Shop, the system has a lot of flexibility in it, so you can come up with your own ideas. It's
Right.
particularly geared towards the flexibility is there for dialogue to naturally occur during the gameplay, during each round. Um, you do also use a card system to keep track of the movement of rounds, and this is like a deck of playing cards, a normal, poker deck.
Yeah, I see
You,
that. It's really cool. I love things with cards.
yeah, yeah, and then I want to talk more about that in a
Mm-hmm.
second, when we get into our second part of this thing, because yeah, the deck system is really cool. Um, and as you move from round to round, your deck represents your mech. And every time you get to a round, there's a chance a portion of the deck that you have displayed out before you will disappear. An item on your mech has just been destroyed.
Oh, nice.
Um, if that damage progresses too much and in a certain direction or way, your mech goes boom. Your reactor has ended, and your final you have an opportunity to say your final words to your rescuer.
That's so you can die. There's no,
Yes.
there's definitely not a guaranteed happy ending. Kind of like T Shop. I don't know if I'd say happy or sad with T Shop, but no, like there's always a, I don't want to say a positive spin, but you get to a good resolution in T
Yeah.
Shop. Whereas with this one, you can definitely just croak. That's what you're saying.
Yes. And
That's
in some ways, it's not a happy ending, but it could be a cool ending.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, pick your last words well and see how that conversation ends.
One of my favorite characters I've ever played died horrifically doing terrible things. So I I think that like I am a fan of when a story arc ends the right way, regardless of how that end is. Like I feel that I am the vessel getting that character to the correct ending to represent what that character should have. So I'm all for death if that's where it comes to it. It's really cool. I like the idea that the cards represent basically the slots of the mecha, almost like old school Mech Warrior when you build out your mech on those old computer games. But this is kind of like the physical representation of those things falling apart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty cool and it helps with the suspense because as you're playing the game, pieces of your mech are disappearing and you're like looking at the card layout and you're like, "Oh crap, this is not good."
Right.
Death is right waiting for me around that corner.
Yeah, that's really cool. I also really love the idea of um I really love the idea of when you take like this massive story thread and you boil it down to its most simplest, intimate moments. So you're obviously a mech pilot in some giant space war, but the whole story is contained with just you trying to survive after
Yeah.
a battle with a rescuer coming, which it takes
Yeah.
all of that stuff out of it. Like it simplifies that big epic into a very human personal story, and sometimes epics don't always do that really well, and you lose track of what's actually happening out there. Whereas this one really it refines it on
Yeah.
that human condition.
Yeah. Yeah. And to that note, that's one of the reasons why I feel like the solo play, the journaling aspect of this game is great, but I've got so much more personally out of the face-to-face interaction gameplays I've had with this thing. Um, because it is like you said, like that intimate sort of space of like life and death, you're trapped, you have to communicate with somebody. Um, and you can really feed off that tension despite all of this like epic stuff going on around them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I think that this would definitely warrant that second player. Like T Shop, you can get like T Shop is almost all about getting something out of yourself that you didn't know was in you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Whereas this is about something about getting something out of each other that you didn't know was in that. I think this would be really good to play. As weird as it is, and I would never be able to get my wife to do it, but this would be good to play with a significant other. I feel like this would be a really interesting experience because it would end up interlacing with those real life feelings.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I did play this with my wife, and it was
Oh, speak of the devil.
yeah, that was a very big game. Um, Lots of feelings were had, and one of the reasons is I think to a certain degree, if you know the person really well, like maybe your spouse,
Right.
um, you know, not like where to jab rather, but to where like the heartstrings are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how to tell the types of stories that your spouse loves
Yep.
and the types of stories when you go to a movie, if your spouse is going to shed a tear, you know which movie that is,
Yep.
and so when you're creating your side of the narrative, it like it's your spouse, you're like, okay, I know how I'm gonna get
Yeah, you
my
naturally
supplies here.
go to that place. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you
Hmm.
want to have a good story with your spouse too, which helps that all along also.
Did you die in your spouse story? Were you the
I
mech
did.
pilot? You
I was,
died.
and I did. Yeah.
Oh, that's. Oh, we can't talk for a day.
Yeah.
You
It's too
let me
much. It's too
die.
much. Yeah, death is moderately like easy. Like it's not a guarantee by any means. You can definitely play like 5 games and not die. But at the same time, there's a mechanism in here where you can die extremely quickly.
Oof.
Um, and you can, they do actually give you a possibility in the game to route that because there is a possibility you could even die off the first or second round, which
Right.
would basically ruin the game.
Right.
Um, so they give you an opportunity to like sort of route that game so you don't have that. Um,
I was about
but
to
it's
say I
still
didn't read enough of it to really make nitpicks, but that would have been my nitpick because I definitely wouldn't want to sit down to play this and immediately croak. Like
right. Yeah.
that would just defeat all the drama of the situation.
Yeah, there's an optional rule to get rid of that. And obviously for good reason.
Yeah.
Um, but there's two big ways to die in this game is your mech is slowly falling apart. And then how the mechanics of the table works will render your core, which is at the center of your deck, right? The center of your display, um, completely isolated from any other cards. Your core will then go nuclear, and that's how you die. If
Oh,
that
okay.
happens, you have your last final words because you know it's about to happen, and you can really craft something really clever or really meaningful to the story. The other way you
How do
can
you lose
die,
the cards? Because I see it's like a grid shape, and
yeah,
then so the very center one is your core. How do you lose the cards? How do the cards fall away?
as you move from round to round, you have like I think how many cards was it? I think it's 25 cards
Something like that.
altogether,
Yeah, 24.
like on display. 24. Okay. So the remaining cards in the deck, you draw, and if the card has the same, I believe it was um number,
Okay.
you find that number on your display and you place it on top of it, and you remove both of those cards,
Oh.
and that's how you lose a chunk of your
Okay.
mech. And you can also make repairs, which I believe was set up with the suit of the card. So if you get 2 hearts, you might be able to make a repair on one of your pieces.
Nice. That's really cool.
Um,
That's a really
yeah,
cool
yeah. So
system.
there's a bit of strategy there too.
Yeah, simple mechanic, but it's got some strategy to it. I like that, and I think that if there's anything that I mean, my nitpick about the last tea shop was just you want more rules. You know what I mean? You want
Yeah.
even more like experience. Like for I know some players. I mean, hell, you know him. Phil Billy is a very build oriented player. He just is. He likes the
Hmm.
stats. He likes the numbers. He likes to make his. I wouldn't call him a power gamer because he's into the role playing aspects of it, but he
Sure.
likes to maximize the effectiveness of his character.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's with everything with him. It's gaming. It's everything. And the one thing that the last tea shop will never speak to him on is that there's no real way to
Right.
like build anything. It's more of a way to tell that story. Whereas this kind of has a little bit of the strategy. I wouldn't say the build mechanics, but there's definitely something to how you play the cards and how you use them to kind of keep yourself afloat, which would keep those kind of more mathematical players stimulated.
Exactly. Yeah. You do want to think ahead. You do want to see, okay, I do have an opportunity to save a portion of my mech here. I should save one closest to my core because if that core gets isolated, I'm done.
Right.
You
Right.
know. And there's another aspect where if in any portion of your mech gets isolated, let's say like the top right hand corner doesn't have any cards around it,
Mm-hmm.
that thing is also done.
Okay.
So that you can really start racking up a lot of damage that way if you're not watching out and you're not trying to place your cards right.
So yeah, so like if something gets isolated, everything past it is just fried. You could just you
Yeah.
lose a whole section if you place
Yes.
the cards incorrectly. I see.
Exactly.
I see. That's
Exactly.
very
There
cool.
has to
That's a
be
very
a
cool mechanic.
vertical or horizontal path to it. So if there isn't one because there's an isolation, then you're starting to run out of ship, and you better get rescued quick.
That's really cool. That's a really cool system. I like how that works.
It also
Uh,
helps, keep like the tension, I feel like, going. So,
yeah,
the game is narrative based, but you're looking at this and you're like, oh crap, I'm gonna die. And then you kind of start getting intense and your character starts getting intense. And you start It's a little bit like easier to
yeah.
role play in that.
Well, and it's hard. You gotta. One thing that I'm noticing, because I'm also kind of skimming it on the side because I have it open while we're doing it because I felt bad that I didn't read any of it. One thing I'm noticing is this is like the yin to Last Tea Shop's yang, in my opinion, like as I'm reading it.
Mm,
Whereas Last Tea Shop, you have this very laid back experience of inner discovery and, just role playing, whereas this is a much more tense, go 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 sort of
yeah,
way to create to craft the journaling story, which I think is really kind of cool. Like if you put these side by side, it's like
yeah.
you get that same result but with completely different means, and I think that's very cool. That's very
And that's
cool.
what 100% agree. Like it has like a mirror image thing going on. And like again, like T Shop I felt was a little bit more set up or ready to go for one player journaling.
Right.
Um and I feel like this game, though I mean both of them can be played either as co-op or journaling. I feel like this game is a little bit more set up and geared for co-op. It just works so good to have that. I mean, the other mechanics work good too, but like it's just so much fun to have that other person there going back and forth.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely co-op. I could see how this would really ratchet up the role playing and kind of put it in your face very fast. And how long did it take you and your wife to play it?
Let's see, that one I think took about half an hour,
Yeah,
a
it
little less
seems
than
like it
that.
would be real fast.
Yeah,
Real
it
fast
can be.
experience.
It can be, especially if you die.
Yeah, it could be
If
real fast if you die.
Yeah, your reactor goes up, and yeah, you're gonna die. And that was the one thing. So the reactor is the Joker card. You get
Right.
two Joker cards in a standard deck, and it goes in the center of your array. It's like
So
a
that's how you
square
can die
grid.
right off the bat because you could draw that other Joker.
You got it,
Yep.
man. That's exactly it. And that did not happen to me. But that's where the cool thing. They have an extra cool mechanic for that to come in where you can route that rule because you can die instantly, like within 1 or 2 rounds,
Hmm.
with that rule in. But if you do die because of us, you pull the Joker card. It's a sudden reactor failure, and your last line has to be cut off mid sentence. So the
Nice.
example in the book they have in there is like,
Yeah.
"Oh God, oh no, tell Matthew I'm." That's how
I
you end.
so that's funny you should mention that. That's something I wanted to bring up. And something that I'm really loving about this book already, just skimming through it, is that they have a full playthrough of the game in the back of the book. So you can see exactly how they played it, how it's meant to be used. And I think that that is really cool. Really
Yeah,
cool, especially for the solo experience when a lot of times you end up feeling through and trying to kind of figure out what the guy wanted you to do because there's nobody to bounce ideas off of. But
yeah,
this, right in the back, there is a whole story that they straight up wrote up, and yeah, it ends in a cutoff, which is hysterical to me. But
yeah,
I think this is awesome. This game is just so interesting and different. I'm kind of upset with myself that I didn't read it and we haven't played it at least once at some point.
yeah. I think you're. I thought from early on after we did our last T shop run that you would really dig this game.
Yeah.
I think you should play it with your wife. Honestly, I think that's actually a really fun. I
I
really recommend that.
I don't know if you've watched Prelude to Divorce at all. It's a gamer show, so I can kind of understand if you haven't, but she is not a gamer. It's hard enough to get her to play video games. Getting her to play role-playing games is not happening ever, ever, ever. You
Gotcha.
see, my wife, and I know everybody out there is like, why is this guy with... Look, I love my wife because she is a sensible, down-to-earth sort of lady. And I am constantly up here floating around in the clouds. And if I married somebody like me, we would never get anything done and die in like a pile of Cheeto filth. It would be disgusting. There has to be that person. But at the same time, she's very grounded. But I can tend to like when she's sick, she would never take a day off work if it wasn't for me. Like, you're sick, stay home. It's okay. And I think that kind of relationship just works that way, so I don't like to change it. But I often get what do you mean your wife doesn't play role-playing games? You're such a nerd. Like, how do you mean she's not a nerd? I'm like, no. She needs to not be a nerd. Because if she was a nerd, nothing would be accomplished, ever. Like, no, she's
Yeah,
got to be straight-laced.
you you got to find that 100% that balance
Mm-hmm.
in your spouse. My wife, the role playing aspect is actually the hardest part for her. So when she sits down at the table with me, like it's almost an exercise um, for her to get a little bit more loosened up and that kind of stuff also. Um, but like that's the balance. You find those
Yeah,
balances.
yeah, you do. I look. I've met plenty of people who have married people who are very similar to them, and they're very happy people. More power to them. I tend to err on the side of you want some stuff in common with that person. You want some stuff to do with that person, but you also want that person to be a very different person to kind of fill in those little nooks and crannies that you need filled in for your life, and then just find some common ground on other things. I know this is now turned into wife talk. I don't know
I
how we
know,
did
right?
that. It's just where it goes. The digression naturally
TTRPGs
takes
and
us.
family.
Yeah. I mean, you just released the story about it, so it works perfectly. I think that yeah, it's not. It works perfectly because we're not exactly similar. I'm not gonna lie, there are definitely times where I'm starting to try and explain something about gaming in one way or another, and I just watch the eyes roll back in
Oh
her
yeah.
head, and she's like, please stop talking about what you're talking about. And I can tell that she's not saying that out of respect for me. And she's like, I gotta try and be interested in this weird bullshit that he does. And at the same
Yeah.
time, she definitely tells me about Vanderpump Rules, and the eyes roll back in my head so fast. So but still,
Just
there's
that 500-yard stare, that glassy look, and
yeah,
you're just like,
you're just sitting
I'm
there
definitely paying attention.
just in my head, I'm like, don't plan your day. Don't plan your tomorrow day. Listen, don't plan to listen to. And then I realized
Oh,
that me in my head saying, don't plan your day has made me not hear her. And then I'm like, wait, what did she say? Oh my God, I have no idea what she's talking about. It
that's the
happened
worst.
anyway.
Yeah, and then you have to fake it.
Yeah. I'm like, that's crazy. That bitch said, what?
Now, I don't know if your wife is like this, but I have never caught my wife where she's faking it. She always has enough of an attention
Oh, she
span where
does.
she hears everything I'm saying, and I'm just like, did you just hear what I said? And she repeats it back. She
Oh
may
my
not
God.
understand a single thing I said,
It's
but she knows.
It is infuriating because I try so hard to match that level of attentiveness, and it's just not physically possible. But she always has one up on me. She can always go to the I listen to you talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for a half an hour. You can listen to me talk about Lisa Vanderpump. And I can't I lose it. And you're right. She's always on point, always on. She manages to withhold it, retain it.
Yeah,
I cannot do it. My brain is
it's.
just somewhere else every
I
time.
think I think my thing with my wife is the same thing. Like honestly, if I didn't marry Shay, I probably would have burnt down the house at some point. I'm always like forgetting to unplug something or whatever, and she just walks through, and I'm like just a tornado, and she's just like, "I'll fix this. It's okay. I'll fix it. Just sit down."
Have you gotten to a point in your relationship too where in the beginning, Like I'll forget to turn lights off when I leave the room all the time.
Oh, yeah.
She's the person who remembers the lights, and she's always like, "Why are all the lights on in the house?" And it used to be my response in the beginning used to be, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. You're right. I'm so sorry." Now it's just, "You married me. I don't know what to tell you. Like this is I
Yeah.
if I'm not gonna turn them off for
Yeah.
the last 12 years when I'm trying, it's just not gonna happen."
It's not that we don't want to. It's just that there really is a broken
There's
circuit in
yes,
there. No, I'm
yes,
100% the same way with the lights, too, by the way.
yes.
100% the lights.
Oh,
And she'll come out of the she'll go into the bedroom right after I've gotten dressed, got everything out of there, I'm good to go, and she's like, "Why is every single light on?" Um, because I turned them on for you.
oh, I'll do one where I was like, "Well, I was going back in there. What were you going
Yeah.
back in there for? Uh, some socks? You have socks on. Oh, why are you a lawyer? I think you're right though. It's a broken circuit. Like I try to tell her this. Like whenever I like miss hear something, she'll be like, "Oh, you didn't hear it." And I'll be like, "Listen, I know that there's no reason for you to believe me, but I really want to hear and remember what you're saying. Like more than anything on the planet, it's just my brain won't let me retain that information, and I'm sorry. Like I try so hard. There's a broken highway in
Yeah.
there."
Actually, with us, for me, it's a hole in my brain. I don't know why. Sometimes things fall into it and they just disappear.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
They
Yep.
just disappear.
I'm with you. Yep. Totally. Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
then I'll remember some random thing about some nerd thing, and like I'll be like, "Oh, this would never happen because Superman is just as vulnerable to magic as he is to kryptonite." And she's like, "You can fucking remember that Superman is vulnerable to magic, but you can't remember the thing I said like 2 minutes ago, or to turn the goddamn light off." And I'm like, you got me there."
yeah.
But anyway, back to the game. Back to the
Yeah.
game. We got real digressed off there.
Yeah. But it was
I
a fun one.
it was. I am in love with this game, but what would you change? What would be your nitpicks? Not to go through the episode
Okay.
too fast, but I think we've kind of covered everything to it.
Yeah. So, one thing before I get into nitpicks, to that
Yeah, yeah,
point that you
yeah.
just made, we
Go.
covered everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the
Broken
game
circuits,
is like
man.
what,
Do what you got to
35?
do.
The game is like 35 pages long.
Yeah.
Um, which is, moderate size for this type of game. But those pages have like a block of text in a big bold, almost like if you were to put them on you could almost put that text on a flash card. There's not a lot to it. You can breeze through this halfway quickly. It's pretty simple and all of that. So all of those things like I really like about the game, but they do lead me into some of my nitpicks. And one nitpick that in particular is so I love the cards
Mm-hmm.
and I do not this isn't really a criticism because honestly, like if I was in this writer's position, I would have done the cards exactly the same way. I actually wouldn't have changed anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I would have liked to see, like if he ever does, an expanded version of this, is custom cards for the actual mech parts.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Um, Now I know why he didn't do that, but
I know
it's
why he
really
didn't do it
hard.
too. Because I made a game
Um,
with cards, and it is not fun. So I definitely
yeah,
understand why he decided to do it playing cards.
there are so many problems
Mm-hmm.
in doing that for an indie creator, even one who's really is this game's got some success. It's coming from a writer who has some success. He also runs, I believe, the Cannibal Halfling
Mm.
website. So he knows this stuff. He's got the market. But still, like cards are not easy,
Mm-mm.
especially like if you're not like necessarily an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Like how would you draw them? How would you design them?
Mm-hmm.
All of this other stuff. So this isn't really a criticism of him choosing to use a playing deck of playing cards.
Yeah.
But if, he decided to re-release this with custom cards with mech like parts on it or
Yeah.
designs and it looked kind of cool, that would be so cool. That would totally be what I would one of the
Does
things I would really like about it.
does he sell this on Drive Through Games?
He does.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a little bit more digression since we're ahead on time anyway. My first game for my game company is Upper Hand. It's a wrestling RPG. We decided to go with a card based system. The problems with this are astronomical, and they don't tell you any of up front. We went through Drive Through RPG. Drive Through RPG has tons of sisters like Drive Through Novel, Drive Through Card Game, Drive Through everything, and they all like use kind of the same site. So if you get cards, if you do cards with it, you can add the cards to the games page on Drive Through Games to buy the cards. What they don't do. What they don't do is tell you that you are ordering them from two completely different places. So anyone who goes to purchase it must pay shipping twice. To make matters worse, they don't let you make the order from one cart. So if you're on Drive Through RPG, right? And this is I still kind of attribute it to the abysmal failure of our first game. If you're on Drive Through Games and you say go to the main game and you order that game. Okay, I'm ordering that game. I won't put that in the cart. Ooh, I need cards with it. I'm going to order a deck of cards. You can put both of them in your cart, but when you go to check out, it tells you, it stops you, and it says, no, you can't buy these both together. Why did you let them put it in the cart there, Drive Through RPG? And then it tells you that it straight up tells the customer they have to pay shipping twice, and it tells them they will have to order they'll have to order them separately. They can't even order them in the same cart. It kills the impulse buy. No matter how cheap your game is, it's like a red flashing light to anybody who's just on there trying to buy something. And I'm not saying you should take advantage of people by like sneaking the charge in. I think all the charges should be there. It's just that they put
Right.
them both in the cart and they hit the checkout, let them check out, but it doesn't let you. It makes you do it twice. I think that is enough to anybody who's in there just impulse buying is going to be like, maybe no, because
It's a barrier.
yeah, and the shipping is super expensive from Drive Through. It's not Amazon. It's Drive Through RPG and Drive Through cards. Their shipping is long and expensive. It's the biggest problem I have with them for their physical stuff. They make things
Right.
very easy, but if you're ordering the flat shipping, it's like $5 and it takes you like 2 weeks to get the product. So you're paying that $5 twice. You're not getting either product for 2 weeks. They can come separately at different times. How much fun is that? Like, there's
Yeah.
no they bought all these companies and then they didn't refine it so that they could use them all together. It's a little bit silly. Sorry, Drive Through Games. You're still a great place for indie game stuff, but some stuff I hate about you. And I'm hating more and more as I get deeper and deeper into the RPG stuff. So, to speak to this guy's custom cards,
Yeah.
while I will say this, I think he should do a deck of cards, custom cards. And if you want a guy to do your art, I know a guy because my partner is a card guy. He's obsessed with mecha, so he would do it. I can't imagine that the guy who wrote this game is going to listen to this podcast, but if he does, get in touch with me. But I would say do a custom cards, but just do it separate. Just do it as like a special edition thing. Like, here's custom cards if you want to play with it. Leave the rules the way they are,
Yeah.
and then with the custom cards, just make sure you put on the custom cards somewhere what they would be if they were a suit, so that it translates.
Yeah.
So like if it's a king or whatever, just have it translate to the part,
Right.
But I think that cards and is very difficult in an indie space, just like you said. And I just wanted to get more in depth with that because of my own experience. It killed any impulse buys we may have had from our first game because of that, and they don't tell you any of that up front. Yeah, I
They
didn't
don't,
find out about that until somebody tried to order it.
honestly, there's so many things in this industry that you just aren't told up front, or
Yeah,
there's incomplete information
yeah,
out there. that leads you to go down a path that may not be the path you would have chosen if you had all the facts.
Yeah,
Um, Honestly, we could almost just do a whole podcast on just that
we
alone.
really could. Because I'm not gonna lie, probably most of our games going forward is gonna be on itch from this point on,
Hmm.
because we've been looking at just the pay scales and how much we're paying for it.
Yeah,
Like drive through games takes 30% of your
yeah.
your sale price. Period. 30% doesn't matter unless you're selling it for $0. Is 30%, which you're getting their storefront with that. But if you're not an established seller, you're not going to be featured on their storefront. So unless somebody's just random, unless you're, so the only thing you're paying for at that point is the search engine finding you when they search for you, and Google can do that. So like, whereas with itch, you don't even have to give them a cut. We were looking it up. They encourage you to give some of the percentage of the proceeds to them, but they're like, you don't have to. However, we don't. The other thing is, when you post on drive-through, and this is something that's really bugging me, and I saw this on Twitter, and I didn't want to be a know-it-all, but there's a couple of guys who I saw on Twitter talking about their games coming out and saying, we're going to put it on drive-through, we're going to put it on itch. You can't do that. Drive-through retains all the digital sale rights when you put your game on there. When you put your game on there, you are signing an agreement that you cannot sell that game through a digital provider other than them. You
Well,
can sell it physically, but you cannot sell it digitally through another provider. So
I'm pretty
like,
sure there's another contract you can select that they will take a larger chunk
this
out
is
of
true.
your
You're right
pay.
about that. Yeah. You're right about it. They take like 40 or something like that. You're right. You're right. I'm
Yeah.
speaking out of turn. Still, that to me isn't really well explained in the front,
No.
and itch does not require, like, itch doesn't care where you put it. Like,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like, if you're not a big established person, don't put your shit on drive-through. Just don't, because you're not gonna make any money off of it. You're gonna be buried in the landslide of games coming out, unless you have something. Unless you read my friend over here, Wizards Respite, fine scrubbing for stuff so that you can
Right.
know. Stealth plug. You can know where to post what kind of games to post on drive-through to get noticed. But like, overall, you're gonna get buried in that algorithm because it's just too big of a storefront at this point. You know,
Yeah.
especially if you're a thing that's not D&D, which
Especially long run, like there's a little bit of a bump you might be able to get right at the beginning, like right when you first publish,
yeah,
but it like disappears, I think, after the first month.
yeah,
And it's basically like the new books section essentially.
yeah,
So that's where you're going to be seen. You're going to be seen for people who are looking for new books
yeah,
for like the first like couple weeks, I think. Like literally, I think it might be just 2 weeks, and then you're going to get cycled out of that list, and then you are going to be, yeah, unfortunately, pretty lost to the world. That drive-through alone would definitely not be the place to do your marketing.
no,
Um,
I honestly, Twitter and low price. Like, if you're new, in my opinion, at least from my experience, because my first game I released was $16. I know a lot of people are thinking that's low price. It's not. $16, and then I had the cards, the deck of cards that you had to pick up for it with four. We've already talked about the card issues. I'm not going to go over that again. However, it didn't get any sales whatsoever. I think that was very much hindered by people going in and realizing they'd have to order two things.
yeah.
Getting Over is only being sold for $4. That's all I'm selling it for. I've had 3 times the sales that I had from Upper Hand, and none of them have come from people I know. Nobody I know about it. Whereas every
Whoa.
sale from Upper Hand was, and don't get me wrong, I'm selling it for $4, so I'm only getting $2.80 off of it, so I'm not making anything really yet. But like, I have sold I think we've sold something like 14 copies now, like 10, 12 copies, something like that. Whereas Upper Hand, we only ever sold like 4 copies. So
So, and a side note on this is Upper Hand has one like uphill battle on a marketing point of view, which is like it's not the easiest thing to throw into searches, but how do you like, for instance, how did you list it for your genre?
Oh man, they made me change it, so I'm not quite sure what to say
They
there. I
made you
think I
change it.
ended up going other because they don't have any wrestling
Yeah,
genre on there. I
yeah,
the thing is though is the reason like just logically standpoint, the reason that I'm getting those sales with Getting Over is people from Twitter when I post on Whip It
yeah,
Wednesday are willing to spend the $4 to support somebody, and so they go in and they purchase it. Like
yeah,
but that's where I'm getting my marketing. They're also not getting stopped by some weird card thing. It's not $16. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
like I'm getting those sales because of that, and I think that like if you're trying to start off, I think that's the way to go. But personally, and we're way off subject now. I'm sorry, but personally, I wish I had posted Getting Over on Itch because right now
Mm,
I'm only getting $2.80 for Getting Over, and I'm paying all of that money for a storefront that I don't use, that does not get used, and now I
right.
can't post Getting Over on Itch, which is very frustrating. Whereas I think all my sales have come from Twitter impulse buys, Twitter and Facebook impulse buys.
Okay.
So next time I'm gonna post it on Itch, and I'm going to just let the Twitter stuff come in and do my own marketing because I think that's where we're getting the sales at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The other problem with Itch is if you want a physical copy of the thing, you they're not a publishing house.
Yeah.
They're just a place to post something online. So they're
Yeah.
not you can't get it's digital only stuff. But
Nobody's
personally,
doing it perfect right now.
nah.
Like, no, everybody, I think everybody has like something that they would change about these platforms.
Yeah, yeah. But to bring it all the way back around to Lost, I
Yes.
think that's one of the things that is the problem with the cards is to
Yeah.
attach the cards right off the bat.
Yeah.
Puts you in this position where, and what's weird is upper hand. You could actually play it with a deck of cards easily. Like it would be easy enough. We actually played it originally with a deck of cards. What we would
Okay.
do is we would take the suits and turn them into the power, the tech, or the speed. So it's like
Yeah.
clubs was power, and you know what I mean. You could play it
Yeah.
easy. We made the choice to make it about those custom cards for extra sales. That was a mistake. If we had done it with playable cards, you got to wonder if we would have had more impulse buys there.
Sure.
But yeah, I would love to see some custom cards for this. That would be really, really, really cool.
Yeah, like I said, it's not so much of a nitpick because like I actually really do understand. I don't I would have done the same thing if I
Yeah,
was in this situation. But yeah, a custom card thing, like I'd almost just want to make my own custom cards because like I think those are the kinds of things that I like is just like the little like things that add a little bit of character and detail to the world.
yeah,
Um, and having custom cards with like mech parts or engine parts on there, like this is your
yeah.
oscillating gun turret that's about to
Yeah,
explode or whatever,
yeah, that'd be really cool. I personally, if I had any nitpick, I would say that optional rule of stable reactor should always be on, just because
Hmm,
if this was just a normal game, I'm all for just dying in 2 rounds every once in a while. That's cool, but this game is this game is so much in the tension and the
yeah,
build to what's gonna happen to cut that build off so fast, or have the potential for that build to be cut off so fast, I think is the only slight mistake. I'm glad that this optional rule is in here. I just think that
yeah,
it shouldn't be an optional rule. I think it should be part of the game. Just because 2 rounds, you're not going to get anything out of this game. And if this was your first experience with the game, it might put you off to it forever. I think that you need those first few rounds to really build that tension. You know what I mean?
yeah. I could see that definitely. One thing that I did like about that was the cutoff sentence because it's a
Yeah.
sudden reactor
Yeah, that's
explosion.
cool.
But you could always just say, like if you really wanted to keep it in, the first 5 rounds, if the Joker card gets pulled, you just put it back into the deck. Um,
That's what I was gonna say. I would actually make it a flat, like the Joker has to be pulled a certain number of times for the reactor to get
Okay.
blown, instead of like a turn cap. I would say,
Yeah.
oh, the critical went like it enters a more critical phase. You could even attach something severe to it, which ratchets
Yeah.
that tension up. So like, oh, the Joker card got pulled, which means your reactor goes down a level, and a random system immediately gets ejected from the mech. Like
Right. Yeah.
whatever, it's cut off and it's done. And which would be really interesting if you did it randomly, because you could get to this point where like, oh, the random part literally separated everything on the north side because that's all I had left, but it was in far enough to cut off that line. I think
Yeah.
that's how I would do it. I would just say, okay, you get 3 Joker pulls before that thing goes, but every time the Joker gets pulled, one random card is just automatically ejected from the system. And then
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
still getting that tension. You're still getting that tension. You're still getting that forced, no, that forced rush. But there's
Yeah.
no chance that it's going to immediately end in the first 2 seconds of the game.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I can
So,
see that. I can definitely see that as being a nitpick, and yeah, that kind of throwing off a game quite a bit. And yeah, still having that tension in there with that, like just tweaking the mechanics a little bit there, um, a little bit more could definitely help keep that in there with.
yeah.
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 So are we all done with this game? Because I got some cleanup to do to talk to the people, if that's all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. First of all, guys and gals, if you are out there listening to us right now, we want your war stories, man. We want your war stories. Put them in the comments on YouTube. Send them to us on Twitter, Wizards Respite or Old Man Gaming. Type them up. Whatever your cool gaming moment is from any game, even D&D, you can you can send them our way, because we want to read them out on the show. So if you have a war story, please throw it our way. No matter how long or big, we're gonna try and add a little section in when we get the war stories, and read them out and then talk to them about it a little bit. I always, on my gaming podcast, my video gaming podcast, we love fan traction. It's our favorite segment. We read all the comments that we get from YouTube. And I love interaction, stuff like that. So if you've got a war story, send it our way. We want it for the next show. So I get to pick the next game, right?
Yes. What do you
All
got?
right. Another formulaic one for me. Another one that was the essence of Zach. And it is held together by a duct tape on the side. We're
A
doing
well-loved game.
Mekton Zeta. Mekton Zeta from our Telsorian game. In my opinion, the definitive system for creating mechas. Maybe not using them, but creating them without a doubt. That's what I want to discuss next time, if you're up for it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so excited. It's also one of the first games that, maybe not ever, but that I remember playing that had a life path.
Okay.
And the minute I hit life path, it's one of my first experiences with procedural generation in gaming. So it's just very exciting for me. So that is it. 2 weeks from today, we'll talk about Mekton Zeta. Send us your war stories. I guess we're ready to plug there, Wiz.
Yeah, yeah. Did you want to go first, or did you want me to do it?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right.
It just went up. If you're listening to this week, we put up episode 5 of Astral Drive. Check it out. Wizard plays it. I game master it. It is the system coming, hopefully towards the end of this month, maybe early July, and then a world that I'm creating for that system. But we're playing it. Myself is the game master, Wizards Respite, Phil Villard 330 from my channel, and then Aether Dios, an old friend of mine. We're all playing it together. It is a crazy, weird space fantasy sci-fi thing. So please check it out. We've got 4 episodes up, and we got the 5th one coming.
A lot of fun.
Please, I'm keeping it to TTRPGs because this is a TTRPG show, but please check out on Mondays 1 to 3. It might just be me from now on. I don't know. My partner got a lot of stuff going on right now, but I am playing my game that I just released. You heard us talking about it, Getting Over. It's $4 on Drive Through Games. You can search Getting Over in the search bar. You will find it. It is only $4. It is a solo wrestling promoter simulation journaling game. You can play alone or with friends. Each player takes the role of a wrestling promoter with their own wrestling league, and it procedurally generates the wrestlers, the game, the stuff for you to write the matches, and you deal with stuff that comes your way. It's a lot of fun. I'm playing it every Monday. If you want to see it played, check it out on Monday 1 to 3, or go back, and they're all up on the YouTube. And it has been some of the most, like, I will keep playing that if nobody's watching it, just because
You love the game.
oh dude, I as we're recording this, I did one today that was good, but the one that I did right before I went on vacation, I had a 5-star match as my main event, and it was absolutely one of the greatest like things I've ever done in role playing. And I don't think anybody watched that episode. I think I only had like 4 views, but it was absolutely like this balls to the wall fight for a first championship that I had built up. It was so special to me. And so if you guys want to check that out, it's just me. I listen to music. I play the game in front of you guys, so you guys get to see it. And then finally, last plug for TTRPG. Sometime this month, we don't have a date. We have decided the story of Tex and the Stump Girls will continue. TMNT. Coming back with a couple of homebrew rules that I decided to add of my own creation, which I'm very excited about. And we're also adding Philbilly, who is going to be playing an alligator who is obsessed with conspiracy theories, from what I can understand so far. So, gonna be super fun, guys. That game, couldn't stop thinking about it. Kind of talked Wizard into keep playing it, and
It wasn't that hard to talk me into. I
it
love
wasn't.
that character.
It wasn't. It's just so much fun. Even when it's
Yeah.
serious, it's so much fun. So I'm very excited to continue that. And I'm going to be running my supplements that I got when I was freaking 13. So I've been rereading them. It's so exciting. So I don't even really have to make a ton of stuff up. I have to definitely upgrade some of it for the 21st century. Because a lot of it's like they could just call people on their cell phones. But they didn't have them when this was written. But
Yeah.
it's cool. It's very cool. So we're gonna be doing that sometime this month. Look out for that. We haven't set a date yet. I'm making Phil's character officially tomorrow, not on stream or anything, just us, and then we're gonna set something up. And I'm finally done talking, Wiz. Sorry, I took up so much space.
No, you're good. Yeah, that's all very exciting stuff. I got a couple of exciting things too. I just this week posted a new article diving deep into the TTRPG sales and marketing sort of side of the industry. This one actually focused in on family gaming, which is a random one. This is the first genre that I actually dove into to really cut through the numbers and try and figure out. But the reason why is because when I pulled the numbers looked pretty surprising. There's a lot of opportunity in that genre, and I talk all about it, what I found, and what you can do with that information in my article at the Wizard's Respite. I definitely suggest checking it out if you are a TTRPG content creator and thinking about the family gaming genre. Um, and even if you're not, if you're just an enthusiast, I'd still check it out because this is your hobby, and I think that you would still get a lot out of it. Just kind of seeing how it works on the other side. Um,
As a
I'd
dad who's
also
constantly trying to get his kid to play role playing games with him, I will be reading this article.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents of trying to get their kids to play would really benefit from reading it. I mentioned a lot of different publishers in that and types of game systems designed for kids. So there's kind of a little bit for everybody. Um, see what else do I got? That's the big thing right now. I'm still focusing on that. The next article that's coming out in this series of articles talking about sales trends and marketing will probably be focused on science fiction. That's another big surprising one. In fact, that one's kind of a heavy hitter in the TTRPG industry.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how powerful that genre is and those how well those games sell. Um, I already have two more out prior to the family gaming focus, so there's plenty to go around. Might be a little bit while. I Before I get the next one out, I do have a few other articles I need to write. I got some more reviews that are going to be coming out,
Ooh, exciting.
and yeah,
What are you
all
reviewing
kinds of
next?
stuff.
Can we get
Um,
a little taste of what you're reviewing next?
yeah, I probably should have told you this before we got on, but I'll be doing a deep dive review of Getting Over.
What? Oh, awesome.
That's the next one. Um,
Yay! I
yeah, I
hope you
wanted to
liked
talk.
it.
I did like it.
It would be bad if you didn't. This would
And
be
I
make things awkward in the Sanctorum from here on
yeah,
out.
I will. So one of the things I don't do deep dive reviews on books I don't like. I don't want to be crapping on
This is
people.
true. You have told me this before.
And my deep dive reviews are one to review it, but also to talk about how it more or less functions so that not diving into the details too much, but so that people can get a sense of what the game is really all about. Because you read the description and that doesn't really tell you much.
Right.
You really need to talk to somebody that's actually played the game to understand the game. And that's what I try to do with these games. I try to deep dive into them. I try to understand them, and I try to convey that out so that people kind of have a sense of what the game is all about when they're looking at it. And that's what I'm going to do with Getting Over.
I should have picked it for one of our Sanctorums, but I feel like that would be too egotistical. I
Actually,
feel like if I picked my own game for Sanctorum, I would be
at
in
some
the
point we
infomercial
should
area.
talk about it at least a little bit. I mean, like I'm doing an article on it, so maybe I'll pick that for one of my games.
I would be all right with that. I'd be all right with that. I'm not saying you should though. I'm not saying you should. That's really awesome. I'm very excited about the review. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool, cool. Yeah. I'm that's my next stop. And then yeah, back to more industry stuff. Hopefully helping people navigate the tricky and very ambiguous world of marketing your TTRPG game.
Cool beans, man.
That's my plugs for today.
All right. Well, I think we're done then, bro.
Okay, awesome.
Bye, everybody.